I said don't come, Lena. Why do you make everything harder than it needs to be? That was the last message my sister sent me. I stared at the screen, reading it over and over, like maybe the words would change if I blinked enough. My fingers hovered above the keyboard, but I didn't even know what to type back. What do you mean, don't come? I finally sent. The message showed read almost instantly. And then nothing. No reply. No explanation. Just silence. My name is Lena Carter. I'm 34 years old. And if you had asked me a month before that night, I would have told you my life was simple. Not perfect, not exciting, but stable. I worked as an accountant for a mid-sized firm. Numbers made sense to me. People not so much. I wasn't the kind of person people noticed when I walked into a room. I didn't have a flashy job title or a loud personality. In my family, I was the one who handled things quietly. Bills, paperwork, helping out when someone forgot something important. That was always me. My younger sister, Rachel, was different. She had that energy people are drawn to. Confident, polished, always saying the right thing at the right time. Growing up, she was the one they praised, the one they showed off. Why can't you be more like Rachel? Was practically background noise in our house. And I learned early not to fight it, because fighting it never worked. So I became the reliable one instead. The one who didn't complain. The one who showed up every birthday, every dinner, every last-minute favor. Even when it felt like I was more of a convenience than a daughter. I told myself that's what family meant. You show up, even when they don't for you. But that text? Don't come. It wasn't just about dinner. It was the first time they didn't even pretend I belonged. That night, I didn't go. I sat in my apartment, still dressed, still ready, staring at the door like maybe I'd change my mind at the last second. Like maybe Rachel would text again and say, "Hey, sorry. Of course you should come." But she didn't. Instead, about 2 hours later, my phone buzzed again. Not a message this time. A notification. I opened it, and my chest tightened instantly. It was a photo. A group photo. My family. All of them. Smiling. Laughing. Arms around each other like nothing was missing. Like no one was missing. The caption read, "Family dinner, red hearts, so grateful for everyone who matters." I don't think I've ever felt something snap so quietly inside me before. Not anger. Not yet. Just something breaking. Because it wasn't just that they didn't invite me. It was how easily they replaced me. Like I had already been gone for years. The next morning, I called my mom. I didn't even try to sound calm. Why wasn't I invited? There was a pause. Not a shocked pause. Not a confused one. A careful one. "Well," she started, her voice soft in that way that always meant she was about to say something that would hurt. "We just thought it might be uncomfortable for you." Uncomfortable. I repeated. "It's a family dinner." Another pause. Then she said it. "It wasn't just dinner, Lena. It was a special." My stomach dropped. What does that mean? "She got engaged," my mom said. Rachel did. It was her announcement. I actually laughed. Not because it was funny. Because it felt unreal. She got engaged, and I wasn't even told? "Well, we didn't want any tension," she said quickly. "You know how things can get." "How what gets?" My voice cracked now. "What are you talking about?" "You can be sensitive," she replied. Sensitive. That word again. The same one they used every time I reacted to something that should have hurt. "So instead of inviting me," I said slowly, "you all just decided I didn't belong there?" "That's not what we said." "It's exactly what you said." Silence filled the line. And then, like it was the most normal thing in the world, she added, "We thought it would just be easier this way." Easier. For them. Always for them. I hung up before I said something I couldn't take back. But the truth was, I didn't need to say anything anymore. Because something had already changed. For the first time in my life, I didn't feel like chasing after their approval. I didn't feel like proving I belonged. I just felt done. Or at least I thought I was. Because later that day, something happened that made everything worse. Much worse. I opened my banking app. At first, I wasn't even looking for anything unusual. Just checking my balance like I always did. But then I noticed something strange. A notification. Linked account activity updated. I frowned. I hadn't linked any new accounts. I tapped into the details. And that's when I saw it. A loan account. Not new, but active. With my name on it. My full name. My identity. My responsibility. My breath caught in my throat as I scrolled. The amount wasn't small. And the account history. It went back months. Months of transactions I had never seen. Never approved. Never signed for. My hands started shaking as I whispered to myself, no, that's not possible. But it was. Because right there in black and white, I wasn't just someone they left out of dinner. I was someone they had been using. I didn't sleep that night. I kept refreshing the banking app like the numbers would disappear if I checked enough times. Like it was some kind of glitch. But it wasn't. By morning, the reality had settled in, heavy and cold. That account wasn't new. It had been active for months. Payments had been made. Withdrawals had been taken. And every single line had one thing in common. My name. The first thing I did was call the bank. I sat at my kitchen table, phone pressed tightly to my ear, my heart pounding so loud it almost drowned out the ringing. Thank you for calling, the agent said politely. How can I assist you today? I need to understand something, I said, trying to keep my voice steady. There's a loan account linked to my profile that I never opened. There was a pause as she pulled up my information. Yes, I see the account, she replied. It was opened approximately 8 months ago. 8 months. My grip tightened around the phone. I didn't open that, I said. I never signed anything. Another pause, longer this time. Well, she said carefully, the documentation we have includes your identification and digital authorization. I felt something drop in my stomach. That's not possible, I whispered. Ma'am, she continued, if you believe this account was opened fraudulently, you may need to file a formal dispute. Fraud. The word echoed in my head. Not a mistake. Not confusion. Fraud. After I hung up, I just sat there, staring at nothing, because deep down, I already knew who had done it, or at least who had access. There weren't many people who knew my personal details, my ID numbers, my financial history, but my family, they knew everything. They always had. I tried to stay calm, tried to think logically, so I did what I always do. I started looking at the details, every transaction, every date, every connection, and the more I looked, the worse it got. Payments were being made from an account I recognized, not mine, my parents'. I froze. No, I whispered again. But it didn't stop there. The loan itself? It was tied to an investment account, a joint family project, one I had never agreed to be part of, one I didn't even know existed. That afternoon, I called my brother. If there was anyone who might tell me the truth, I thought maybe it was him. Hey, he answered casually like nothing was wrong. I need you to be honest with me, I said immediately. There's a loan in my name. Did you know about it? Silence. Not confusion. Not shock. Just silence. Yeah, he finally said. That one word hit harder than anything else. You knew. My voice cracked. And you didn't think to tell me? It's not a big deal, Lena, he said quickly. It's just temporary. We're all benefiting from it. We. I repeated. Who is we? The family, he said like that explained everything. I laughed again. That same hollow, disbelieving laugh. The same family that told me not to come to dinner? That's different, he said. Don't mix things up. Don't mix things up? My voice rose now. You're using my name, my identity, for a loan I never agreed to, and I'm the one mixing things up? You're overreacting, he snapped. There it was. That word again. Overreacting. Sensitive. Difficult. Anything but right. Tell me the truth, I said, forcing my voice lower. Who signed for it? Another pause. Then he said it. Mom handled the paperwork. Everything inside me went still. Mom? She just used your details, he added quickly. It was easier that way. Your credit is better. It's not like we were trying to hurt you. Not trying to hurt me. Like that made it better. Like intention erased impact. I ended the call without another word. Because there was nothing left to say. Not yet. That evening, I drove to my parents' house. I didn't call ahead, didn't warn anyone. For once, I wasn't asking for permission to show up. When I walked in, the house was loud. Laughter, music, the sound of plates clinking. Another dinner, another gathering. And this time, I was the surprise. Everyone went quiet the moment they saw me. My sister's smile faded first. Then my mom's. "What are you doing here?" Rachel asked, her tone sharp. I didn't answer her. I looked straight at my mother. "We need to talk." She hesitated, just for a second. Then she forced a smile. "Not now, Lena. We have guests." "I don't care," I said. The room went even quieter. "You used my name," I continued, my voice steady but cold. "You opened alone in my name without telling me." A few people shifted uncomfortably. My uncle cleared his throat. Rachel stepped forward. "Can you not do this here?" "No," I said. "I can't," because for the first time in my life, I wasn't willing to stay quiet just to keep them comfortable. My mom finally spoke, her voice low and tense. "We were going to tell you." "When?" I asked. "After it ruined me?" "It's not ruining you," she said quickly. "It's helping the family, at my expense, without my consent." And then my uncle, who had been watching the whole thing, laughed awkwardly and said, "Come on, Lena, you've always been the backup plan anyway." The room chuckled. Actually chuckled. Like it was a joke. Like I was a joke. That was the moment something inside me shifted completely. Not just hurt anymore. Not just anger. Clarity. Because now I understood something I had been ignoring my whole life. This wasn't new. They hadn't suddenly changed. They had just stopped hiding it. I looked around the room one last time. At the faces that never defended me. At the people who benefited from my silence. At the family who called me sensitive while using me behind my back. And for the first time, I didn't feel small. I didn't feel like the extra. I didn't feel like the one left out. I felt something else entirely. Something they never expected from me. Because what they didn't know was, this wasn't the first time I had seen something like this. And I had been paying attention. I didn't argue anymore after that. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't try to explain myself. I just left. And that confused them more than anything I could have said. Because they were used to me staying. Used to me trying. Used to me absorbing everything and still showing up the next day like nothing happened. But this time, I walked out without looking back. The moment I got into my car, my hands finally started shaking. Not from fear. From realization. Because everything was lining up now. Every favor. Every time they asked me to just sign this quickly. Every moment they brushed off my questions with, "It's nothing. Don't worry about it." It wasn't nothing. It was never nothing. When I got home, I didn't sit down. I didn't cry. I opened my laptop. And I started digging. "You have to understand something about me. I don't forget details. I don't delete emails. And I definitely don't ignore patterns. It's part of my job. And it's part of who I am." What they didn't know is, I keep copies of everything. Every document I had ever reviewed for them. Every file they asked me to just look over quickly. Every email attachment I was CC'd on but told not to worry about. I had saved it all. Not because I didn't trust them. At least not back then. But because that's just how I work. I like having records. Proof. Structure. I started with the loan. Pulled up the account details. Matched the dates. Then I opened my archived emails. And within minutes, I found something. An email from 8 months ago. Subject line. Quick approval needed. Sender, my mom. The attachment? A document with my name already filled in. Signature line included. But I remembered that day clearly. I never signed it. I had replied, "I'll review this later." Later never came. Because they never asked again. Except they didn't need to. Because when I compared the document to the bank's version, the signature was there. My name. My authorization. Forged. I leaned back in my chair slowly, staring at the screen. My chest felt tight. But my mind was sharp. Focused. Because now it wasn't confusion anymore. It was evidence. I had a plan they never saw coming. But first, I needed to know how deep this went. I kept going. More emails. More documents. More small things I had ignored before. And the pattern became impossible to miss. They had used my identity more than once. Small approvals at first. Minor financial links. Then bigger ones. Gradually increasing the risk while keeping me just far enough away not to notice. But they made one mistake. They assumed I would never look. I opened a spreadsheet and started organizing everything. Dates. Transactions. Documents. Email trails. Every piece of proof lined up.
Clean. Precise.
Undeniable. There were inconsistencies everywhere. Timestamps that didn't match. Approvals that came from devices I didn't own. Signatures that looked close but not quite right. To anyone else, it might have looked normal. But to me, it screamed fraud. I whispered to myself, they really thought I'd never notice. And maybe a year ago, I wouldn't have. Because I trusted them. Because I didn't question things. Because I believed family didn't do this to each other.
But now?
Now I wasn't looking at this as a daughter. I was looking at it as an accountant. And more importantly, as someone who had been used. I had a plan they never saw coming. But I wasn't going to rush it. No emotional confrontation. No dramatic accusations. That's what they expected from me. That's what they were ready to dismiss. Instead, I was going to do what I do best. Prepare. Quietly. Carefully. Completely. Because this wasn't just about proving them wrong anymore. This was about protecting myself. Legally. Financially. Permanently. I gathered everything into a single file. Organized. Labeled. Backed up. Then I sat there, staring at it for a long moment. And for the first time since all of this started, I felt something different. Not hurt. Not anger. Control. They thought I was the easiest to ignore. I said quietly to myself. But I was the hardest to erase. And the next step? I couldn't do it alone. Not this time. Because what I had in front of me was bigger than family drama. Much bigger. The next morning, I didn't go to work. Not because I was overwhelmed, but because I knew exactly what I needed to do. There was one person I trusted with something like this. Claire Donovan. My former boss. Senior auditor. Sharp, precise, and most importantly, someone who didn't let emotions blur facts. She had taught me almost everything I knew about financial integrity. And she was the one person I knew wouldn't dismiss this as family misunderstanding. I sent her a message first. Hey, Claire. I need your help with something serious. Not work-related.
Can we meet?
She replied in less than 5 minutes. If you're calling it serious, I'm already concerned. Come by at 11. When I walked into her office, she didn't greet me with small talk. She just looked at me for a second and said, "You found something, haven't you?" I nodded and placed my laptop on her desk. "I need you to tell me if I'm overreacting," I said. She gave me a look, half amused, half serious. "You? Overreacting? That'll be the day. Show me." I opened the files. All of them. The loan documents. The email threads. The transaction history. The inconsistencies I had mapped out. I didn't explain much. I didn't need to. Claire didn't interrupt. Didn't react. She just watched. Clicked. Scrolled.
Read.
5 minutes passed. Then 10. Then 15. And the longer she stayed quiet, the heavier the room felt. Finally, she leaned back in her chair. Her expression had changed.
Completely.
This isn't small, Lena. My chest tightened slightly. I didn't think it was. She shook her head slowly.
No.
This is serious. Her tone dropped, sharper now. This is identity misuse. Possibly fraud. And it's all tied to you. Hearing someone else say it out loud made it real in a way nothing else had. They used my name, I said quietly. Claire nodded. And they've been doing it carefully. Gradually. That's what makes this worse. She turned the laptop back toward me. Do you realize what happens if this goes wrong? I swallowed. I'm the one responsible.
Exactly, she said.
Silence settled between us for a moment. Then she asked the question I had been avoiding. What do you want to do about it? I didn't answer immediately, because the truth was, A part of me still didn't want to believe it had to come to this, that I had to choose between protecting myself and exposing my own family. But then I remembered the dinner, the text, the laughter, backup plan. I want out, I said finally. My voice was steady now.
Clear.
I want my name off everything. And I want proof that I was never part of this. Claire studied me for a second. Then she nodded. Good. That's the right move. She pulled out a notepad and started writing. You're going to need documentation. Everything you already have organized, time-stamped, backed up. I've done that, I said. I know you have, she replied with a small smile. Next, you're going to need legal backing. Not just advice, representation. My stomach tightened slightly. Legal. That made everything feel bigger. More permanent. Claire continued. And Lena, this part matters. You cannot confront them emotionally. Not yet. I frowned. Why not? Because right now, they think they're in control, she said. And that works in your favor. I leaned forward slightly. So, what do I do? She looked me straight in the eye. You let them believe they've already won. That sentence sat with me. Heavy but powerful. Because she was right. At home, they were confident. Relaxed. Even after I confronted them, they didn't panic. They dismissed me. Minimized it. Like they always had. And that arrogance? That was their weakness. Over the next few days, I followed Claire's advice exactly. No emotional calls. No arguments. No confrontations. When my mom texted me, we need you to sign another document. It's urgent. I replied simply, okay, send it. When my sister called, her tone sharp as ever. Can you not delay this? We need things to move forward. I answered calmly. I'm not delaying anything. They didn't suspect anything. Not really. Because to them, I was still the same Lena. The one who would eventually give in. The one who always made things easier. But this time, my silence wasn't submission. It was strategy. Meanwhile, Claire connected me with a lawyer. Someone experienced, careful, and very, very thorough. We reviewed everything together. Every document, every signature, every transaction trail. And by the end of that meeting, there was no doubt left. This is enough, the lawyer said. Enough for what? I asked. He looked at me calmly. To protect you, and to hold them accountable if you choose to. If I choose to. That choice sat in front of me like a line I couldn't uncross. But the truth was, they had already crossed it. A long time ago. And now, all that was left
Was deciding how I was going to respond.
Because the next step wouldn't just change things. It would end them. The illusion. The control. Everything they thought they had over me. And they had no idea that the moment they asked me to sign one last document was the moment everything would fall apart. The message came 2 days later. We need you to come in tomorrow. Lawyer's office. Just to finalize everything. I stared at it for a second. There it was. The moment Claire had warned me about. The moment they thought would seal everything. I typed back one word. Okay. The next morning, I dressed the same way I always did for important meetings. Simple.
Clean.
Neutral. Nothing that drew attention. Nothing that suggested anything had changed. Because that's what they expected. The same Lena. The one who shows up.
Signs. Leaves.
But this time, I wasn't walking in blind. When I arrived at the lawyer's office, they were already there.
My mom.
My sister. My brother. Sitting together. Talking quietly. Relaxed. Confident. Rachel glanced at me as I walked in. Finally, she said, rolling her eyes slightly. We were starting to think you'd back out again. I didn't react. I just took a seat across from them. My mom gave me that familiar look. The one that always meant just cooperate. This won't take long, she said gently. We just need your signature on a few things. A few things. I almost smiled. The lawyer entered the room a moment later. Not the one they expected. That was the first shift. Subtle but enough. My sister frowned slightly. Wait, who is this? The man placed a folder on the table calmly. I'm here to review the documentation before anything is signed, he said. My brother leaned forward, already annoyed. We've already reviewed everything. This is just a formality. The lawyer didn't respond to him. Instead, he opened the folder. And that's when everything started to change. Before we proceed, he said evenly, there are a few inconsistencies we need to address. My mom stiffened. Inconsistencies? He nodded.
Yes.
Specifically regarding authorization and identity verification. Rachel let out a small, impatient laugh. This is ridiculous. Lena already agreed to everything. I spoke for the first time. No, I didn't. The room went quiet. My brother looked at me sharply. What are you talking about? I leaned forward slightly, my voice calm. I never signed any of those documents. The lawyer slid a paper across the table. One of the loan agreements. My name printed clearly at the bottom. A signature beneath it. According to this, he said, you did. I looked at it for a second, then back at them. That's not my signature. Rachel's expression changed instantly. From annoyed
to tense.
Lena, stop this, she said quickly. This isn't funny. I'm not joking. The lawyer opened another file. Then another. Then another. Emails. Timestamps. Authorization logs. All laid out.
Clean. Precise.
Impossible to ignore. These documents, he continued, show a pattern of approvals tied to Lena Carter's identity. He paused. However, the verification data does not match her known records. Silence.
Heavy.
Uncomfortable. My mom finally spoke, her voice tight. We were going to fix it. I looked at her.
Calm. Steady.
You had 8 months. My brother slammed his hand lightly on the table. This is being blown out of proportion. No, the lawyer said firmly. It's not.
He turned to me.
Would you like to proceed with formal separation from all liabilities tied to these accounts? I didn't hesitate. Yes. That was the moment everything broke. Rachel stood up abruptly. You're going to ruin all of this over a technicality? A technicality? I repeated quietly. You used my name. It was for the family, she snapped. I shook my head slowly.
No.
It was for you. Her silence said everything. The lawyer continued. We will be filing documentation to remove Lena Carter from all associated financial responsibilities. Further review may be required depending on the findings. Review, my mom whispered. He met her eyes calmly.
Yes.
Legal review. And just like that, the confidence they walked in with,
gone.
Replaced with something else.
Fear.
For the first time, they weren't in control. I stood up slowly. No anger. No shouting. No drama. Just clarity. You told me not to come, I said quietly. No one responded. I looked at each of them once. Really looked. Then I added, this time, I'm the one leaving. And I walked out. Not as the backup plan. Not as the one they could use. But as someone they could no longer control. The silence after I walked out of that office felt different. Not heavy. Not painful. Just quiet. The kind of quiet you feel when something is finally over. I sat in my car for a few minutes, hands resting on the steering wheel, just breathing. No calls. No messages. No noise. And for the first time in weeks, my mind wasn't racing. Because it was done. Not everything. There were still processes. Still paperwork. Still consequences waiting to unfold. But the hardest part? That moment of standing up, of choosing myself over them. That part was over. The next few days moved quickly. With Claire and the lawyer's help, I filed everything I needed. Formal separation from the accounts. Identity protection measures. Documentation submitted to the bank. Every step was precise.
Clean.
Final. And my family? They called. Of course they did. The first call came from my mom. I let it ring. Then another. And another. Voicemails followed. Lena, please call me back. We need to talk about this. You're misunderstanding everything. I didn't respond. Because for once, I wasn't the one who needed to explain anything. Rachel texted next. You're being selfish. I read it, then locked my phone. Selfish. That word used to break me. Make me question everything.
But now?
Now it just sounded empty. A few days later, my brother tried. Look, he said when I finally picked up, we can fix this. Just don't push it further. I leaned back in my chair, calm. It's already pushed, I said. You're going to destroy the family over this? He asked. I paused for a second, then answered honestly.
No.
I'm just not saving it anymore. Silence. Then the call ended. And that was it. Not a dramatic ending. No final apology. No sudden realization from them. Just distance. And truth. Weeks passed. The investigation moved forward. I stayed out of it as much as possible, letting the process handle what it needed to. But my life? It changed in ways I didn't expect. I slept better. I didn't check my phone constantly. I didn't feel that quiet pressure, that constant weight of being responsible for things that were never truly mine. And slowly, I started rebuilding something I hadn't realized I lost. My boundaries. I said no more easily. I questioned things I used to accept without thinking. And for the first time, I stopped trying to earn a place in spaces where I was never respected. People at work noticed the shift. Claire did too. One afternoon, she smiled at me and said, "You're different." I thought about that for a second, then nodded. "Yeah," I said. "I am." Because I finally understood something that took me 34 years to learn. Loyalty without respect is just permission to be used. And I was done giving that permission. I don't know what will happen to them in the long run. That's not my responsibility anymore. What I do know is this. The girl who stayed quiet at the table, the one who accepted being left out, the one who kept showing up no matter how she was treated,
She's gone.
and in her place is someone who doesn't need an invitation to belong, because she finally chose herself. If you've ever been treated like you were only valuable when it was convenient for others, if you've ever been used, overlooked, or pushed aside by the very people who were supposed to support you, I want to hear your story. Share it in the comments. Subscribe if you haven't already. This is a space where your voice matters. And if this story felt real to you, click hype to help it reach someone else who needs to hear it. Your story matters more than you think. Don't let anyone convince you otherwise.